Jesus did not tell you to forgive and forget. He gave you a legal procedure in order with consequences for skipping steps. And for 2,000 years, almost every Christian community on earth has jumped straight to step 2. To understand why that matters, you have to understand what it meant to be wronged in a first-century Jewish village. This was not a world of private feelings and personal boundaries. It was a world built on honor and shame, where a person standing in the community was not an abstraction. It was survival currency. Your reputation determined who would trade with you, who would marry into your family, who would vouch for you before the elders, who would lend you grain in a lean year. To be publicly accused of wrongdoing was not embarrassing in the way a modern insult is embarrassing. It could unravel a person's entire economic and social existence. Jewish communal law, rooted in Deuteronomy, already had a system for this. Disputes were adjudicated before elders at the town gate. Accusations required multiple witnesses. A single voice was legally insufficient to establish guilt, precisely because a lone accusation was too easy to weaponize, too easy to use as a tool of social destruction. The witness requirement existed to protect the community from slander as much as it existed to prove wrongdoing. This was not therapy. This was jurisprudence. When the Gospel of Matthew uses the phrase "sins against you," the original audience did not hear a vague emotional grievance. They heard something closer to a legal claim, a breach with real social weight, the kind of offense that could end up adjudicated in public in front of the men who controlled your standing in the village. And the instinct in that culture was to escalate immediately. Public accusation was often the fastest way to gain leverage in a dispute. Expose the wrongdoer before witnesses, shame them into submission, let community pressure do the work that private conversation could not. Shame was not a byproduct of first-century conflict. It was a mechanism deployed deliberately, the way a modern person might deploy a lawsuit or a public statement, which is what makes the first line of Jesus' instruction almost unthinkable in its context. Go to him alone, not to the elders, not to witnesses, not to the gate. Alone, just the two of you, with no one watching, no one to confirm your version of events, no leverage at all. In a culture engineered around public vindication, Jesus opens with a demand for private, unwitnessed, one-on-one confrontation. He is not softening the legal process. He is subverting it. Picture the man who has actually been wronged. Say a neighbor owes him money and has quietly stopped repaying it, using excuses, using distance, hoping the debt disappears into unspoken tension. Or say a member of the community has spread a version of events that damages another man's name among the traders at the market. The wronged party knows exactly what he could do. He could mention it to a cousin. He could raise it at the synagogue gathering, phrase it carefully. Let the group draw its own conclusions. He could let the story travel, the way stories always travel faster than facts. That path costs him nothing. It requires no courage. It only requires a whisper, repeated. Jesus tells him to do the opposite. Walk to the man's door. Stand in front of him alone and say what was done to you with no crowd to back you up and no guarantee he will admit it, apologize, or even open the door. There is no witness to confirm you were wronged. There is no ally standing beside you. If he denies it, mocks you, or turns you away, you have gained nothing and risked everything. Your dignity, your composure, the small, cold satisfaction of being believed. This is the most vulnerable act in the entire protocol, and it is demanded first before the community knows anything happened at all. But that was not the hardest part for most people to accept. Subscribe. The next protocol Jesus handed his followers and quietly walked back on himself is the one most sermons skip entirely. Only if the private confrontation fails does the second step begin. Bring one or two others, not a mob, not allies chosen to intimidate, but witnesses in the strict Deuteronomic sense, people who can later testify to what was said and how it was received. This step exists to protect against exactly the kind of he said, she said instability that made the culture's instinct toward gossip so dangerous. Only now, with testimony established, does the matter move to a third stage. Tell it to the assembly, the gathered community, the body that now carries collective responsibility for what happens next. And only if that fails does the final stage arrive. Treat the person as you would a tax collector or a pagan. That phrase has been misread for centuries as a sentence of exile. But the man delivering this instruction was the same man who ate at the table of tax collectors, who was criticized by the religious establishment precisely for sharing meals with pagans and sinners. To be treated as a tax collector was not to be cast into darkness. It was to be treated as someone outside the covenant community who still somehow remained within reach of the table. The category changes. The door does not close. What almost no one notices is that this four-step structure is not a ladder built for reaching the top. It is a ladder built to be avoided by fear of ever climbing it. The system is engineered so that the earlier, harder, more private steps are the ones doing the real work, and the later, public steps almost never need to happen if the first one is taken seriously. And that is the detail the familiar version drops entirely. Verse 15 is not the warm-up, it is the argument. The entire theological weight of the passage sits in that single instruction to go alone. First, before witnesses, before the assembly, before anyone else in the world knows what happened. It is designed to protect the dignity of the wrongdoer from public exposure for as long as possible, and to protect the wronged party from the corrosive, addictive ease of gossip. The version of justice that costs nothing and heals nothing. Church history did not preserve that order. Within a few centuries, ecclesial discipline had inverted it almost completely. Public censure, formal denunciation, and communal shame arriving first, private reconciliation arriving late, if at all, sometimes only as a formality after the damage was already done. Excommunication, meant as the last and most reluctant step in a long chain, became in practice one of the Church's fastest and most public instruments. The modern equivalent needs no imagination. A grievance surfaces not as a private conversation, but as a post, a group chat, a quietly circulated account among people who were never present for the offense and never will be. The audience arrives before the accused even knows a complaint exists. It is the same shame-first architecture Jesus dismantled, rebuilt in new materials, moving at the speed of a notification instead of a rumor at the well. The hardest line in Matthew 18 is not the one about treating someone as an outsider. It is not even the line about forgiveness that follows a few verses later. It is the first sentence, the one almost no one quotes in full. Go to him alone, before the witnesses, before the assembly, before a single other person on earth knows what was done to you. Go and stand in front of the one who did it, with nothing to protect you but your own willingness to be there.